Joining us now, the president of Citizens United, David Bossie. David, really, when you listen to that speech, that is the Republican Party's agenda. It's not even the Republican Party anymore. It's the People's Party and America First agenda. Right there, that's what these candidates need to run on. That's what the current representatives, they actually need to be doing.
You're exactly right, Natalie. Look, what the president just laid out there for everybody to hear was twofold. One, why candidates should run on these policies, how popular they are, and how solid they are for the American people, and why the American people will in turn vote for a positive agenda for America's future on one hand. And on the other hand, the president laid out high crime and defunding the police. He laid out, the border atrocities and the Afghanistan debacle, our inflation, crisis that Joe Biden has created. Joe Biden's created every single one of these problems that Americans face today. Whether you're going to be able to afford a turkey for Thanksgiving, whether you're going to be able to get presents for your kids for Christmas, because of the supply chain problems. These are problems that Joe Biden created. And so it's really a two-part process that President Trump so ably laid out. Be against Biden and his incredibly bad agenda for America and stopping socialism from taking over America on one hand, and what the positive agenda for America is on the other. It's a winning combination.
And it's so sad that more Republicans haven't stood by this agenda. They get to Washington, and you really can't tell the difference sometimes between them and the Democrats. They're just so good at compromising. Let's just give the Democrats their way. Even though they stood firm against President Trump when you talk about his infrastructure plan, Republicans could have gotten that done. But no, let's wait till Biden comes along. Then let's vote for Biden's infrastructure.
It really is an amazing thing to watch. These 13 so-called Republicans who voted for the infrastructure bill allowed it to pass. There's only a tenth of that infrastructure bill by most arguments that is really infrastructure, roads and bridges and airports and ports, and the stuff that pretty much every American agrees on. That's not what the debate was about. The debate was about the Green New Deal and foisting socialism through this bill, through this enormous amount of money, and foisting that agenda on the American people that they didn't vote for. And these 13 selfish Republicans put themselves ahead of America. They put themselves ahead of the Republican Party that stood against it, and they put themselves ahead of us trying to use this to win next November, when they're going to want to be in the majority next November. And I got to tell you, they need to be held accountable for this vote.
That's why the primaries are so important. It's so interesting. When President Trump was the incumbent, the primary turnout was still really huge when you talk about 2020. Now looking at the primaries next year, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, people who have changed their affiliation to Republican, they are so upset at these rhinos, they actually want to challenge them and get them out of power. How much do you see the people watching that dinner and saying, you know what, this is our agenda. If you're not for it, you're fired?
It's such a great point that you're making there. You look at what happened in Virginia just last week. Moms and dads, parents of all persuasions, Democrat, Independent, Republican, stood up and voted for Glenn Youngkin. The parents are this year's Tea Party movement. They are energizing the Republican Party base on these cultural issues that we conservatives are usually on the downhill side of. We're always fighting upstream against these cultural movements. This one here, whether it is CRT, whether it's the transgender issue, because of that young man wearing a skirt going into the women's bathroom and violently raping this young woman, being transferred and doing it again somewhere else in a different high school. The school board didn't protect either of these young women and then lied about it. That enrages common sense Americans, common sense parents. And that's where we are. I got to tell you, this is going to be an incredible wave next year. I was part of the wave in '94 and in 2010, and it's an opportunity here to pick up a lot of seats. The Democrats won't even see it coming on a lot of races until the last week or two,
Right.
when all of a sudden, and we've seen this before, where polling overnight says these 10 new races that weren't even supposed to be races are now on the grid, and we're going to win most of those. So it's very exciting to see what's going to happen next year.
The polls always got the Trump voter wrong. Even when you look at, they were trying to decide how many people were going to come out. They had no idea how many people were going to turn out in 2021. Who would have thought the municipal elections, we would have seen the turnout that we did? But 2022, these primaries, for the first time, we're actually going to get good candidates out of them, the best. So during the general, we can beat them by whopping margins. It's going to be exciting to see. David, keep us posted on your efforts out there. Thanks for what you're doing to save America. You see how ready the people are to take back their country.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.